Welcome to the Library of Virginia. I'm Catherine Fitzgerald Wyatt, the Education and Outreach Manager here at the library. Since we are closed to the public right now, we wanted to bring a little bit of the library to you. I'm here in the exhibition gallery where We Demand Women's Suffrage in Virginia opened earlier this year as part of the library's centennial celebration of the ratification of the 19th Amendment. The item I want to talk about today is a City of Richmond register, which is part of our local records collection. The register is Richmond City, rolls of registered colored voters, Madison Ward, 1st Precinct, female, and records the names of the first African American women in Richmond who registered to vote in 1920. What can this register tell us about the story of African American women's suffrage in Virginia? Let's take a closer look to find out. After the ratification of the 19th Amendment, Virginia women rushed to register to vote. Legislation allowed women to pay the $1.50 poll tax and register between September 2nd and October 2nd, 1920. Registrars already kept separate white and colored registers for male voters, and for the 1920 election, they kept separate registers for white and African American women. For example, here is a register for white women in Richmond's Madison Ward, 3rd Precinct. The registers list name, date of birth, age, occupation, address, and number of years of residence in the state, city, and precinct. Look at the first register. See any names you recognize? Maggie Lena Walker, the first African American woman bank president, led the St. Luke Penny Savings Bank in Richmond from 1903 until her death. At this time of racial segregation, African American suffragists could not join white women's suffrage organizations in Virginia, but they often discussed or endorsed women's suffrage in their women's club meetings. When the National Association of Colored Women held its 1912 convention in Hampton, members of the Hampton and Norfolk clubs staged a suffrage parade as part of a pageant honoring women. The St. Luke Herald, of which Maggie Walker was managing editor, supported voting rights for African American women, emphasizing that they would benefit by having the ballot just as white women would. Walker said, "I will gladly join in with the women to protect the Susan B. Anthony Amendment, which the women of the country fought so hard to have passed." Walker joined Ora Brown Stokes in registering African American women to vote in 1920. Do you see Walker's name in the register here? Take a closer look. Date of registration, September 14th, 1920. Name, Maggie L. Walker. Date of birth, 1870. Age, 50. Occupation, President, St. Luke's Bank. Residence, 110 East Lee. Length of residence, in state, 50 years. In city, 50 years. In precinct, 17 years. Look at all of the women who felt it was so important to vote, even if it might have been a financial sacrifice for some. Although a $1.50 poll tax doesn't sound like much money today, it was a significant amount to someone who might have earned only $50 or even $100 a month in 1920. These women faced another obstacle. The state's constitution and laws required applicants to give correct answers to any questions the registrar asked about the person's qualifications to register. Democratic registrars regularly asked Republican and African Americans questions on a wide variety of subjects and disqualified people who gave what they declared to be unsatisfactory answers. The registrar in Norfolk ruled that Emma Virginia Lee Kelly, a civic leader in the city's African American community, and 4 other women failed to answer some of his questions correctly, and he refused to register them. They took the registrar to court, where he humiliated himself when he gave an incorrect answer to at least one of the same questions he had used to disqualify them. What I find so remarkable is that on November 2nd, 1920, approximately 75,000 Virginia women were able to vote for the first time. After ratification, these women in the registers and thousands of others hurried to pay the required poll tax, rushed to their local election offices to register before the deadline, often waiting in long lines and facing discriminatory practices from the registrars. Their fortitude paved the way for those who continue to fight for voting rights for all Virginians. When the library is open again, I hope that you will visit our exhibition and get to see these pieces of history for yourself. In the meantime, you can learn more about the story of women's suffrage in Virginia on our website at edu.lva.virginia.gov/wedemand. Thanks for joining us.